September 23, 1972, when President Ferdinand Marcos announced on television that he had placed the entirety of the Philippines under martial law. Miss Kim Gori had gone through a lot. During those times, the martial law marked the beginning of a 14-year period of one-man rule that would effectively last until Marcos was exiled from the country on February 25, 1986. When President Marcos imposed martial law on the nation from 1972 to 1981 to suppress increasing civil strife and the threat of communist takeover following a series of the bombing in Manila. It caused big trembling as she witnessed how life had been challenged. Martial law has historically been implemented through the armed forces of the Philippines and its predecessor bodies, serving as the head of state's primary tool for implementing political power in a reversal of the normal practice of civilian control of the military.
During martial law days, based on my experience, my life was so greatly affected by the type of extreme pain mixed with fear because there were almost people affected. Many people wasted their lives. On that day, the events that took place during martial law were even worse in front of me. Martial law is one of the painful things happening in my life that I will never forget. Not only me, but also other people who have also experienced what I have experienced. And it is also the turmoil that our country, the Philippines, is experiencing. At the time, I was really thinking the world was so unfair because I asked myself why I experienced this kind of life and why did martial law work. I was almost hiding somewhere with almost no appetite because it was full of nervousness, fear, and apprehensions. I thought at the time that I would just commit suicide because I knew I would end up there too. I was so scared that what I thought at the time was purely negative because if you're really on the brink of death, you don't know what to do right.
Oh, I see, Ma'am Kim. Well, talking about martial law, ma'am, for you, what is it? Does the martial law has a big impact in our country? What can you say about this?
Well, when we talk about martial law, it is a law administered by the military rather than by a civilian government, typically to restore order. Martial law is declared in an emergency in a response to a crisis or to control occupied territory. However, it really had a huge impact in our country, martial arts, because our country is experiencing so much today. Many lives have been lost, especially those that have been lost that I will never be restored. All I can see here is that those things that happen in our lives during the martial law days will not be repeated again because they will not be recorded lightly if you experience them again.
To continue, Ma'am Kim, because I am so very curious, what is the real story, or shall I say, the story of martial law, and how did it started, Ma'am?
From the very first place, martial law was started on September 21, 1972 when Marcos declared and became the official date established and the day that the Marcos dictatorship began. At 7:17 p.m. on September 23, 1972, President Ferdinand Marcos announced on the television that he had placed the entirety of the Philippines under martial law. This also allowed Marcos to control history on his own terms. When martial law is in effect, it displaces the civilian government with military rule. Military commanders, not affected officials, make laws, soldiers, not local police, enforce law, and ordinary citizens. Martial law might face military tribunals instead of civilian courts. Those people were very affected and I was involved because of martial law. I was so scared that I could not do what I wanted to do. I was just going to hide, afraid that I might get into trouble and get injured.
Very informative statement we hear from you, Ma'am Kim. I hope our countrymen will know deeper about martial law and educate the upcoming generations by telling the real story about it.
Yes, they must really have depth knowledge about it, especially for the young ones.
Well, Ma'am, what can you say to our viewers or our countrymen, Ma'am Kim, who are watching now in our TV broadcast all over the Philippines, because this is an important and informative discussion, especially to our students who are able to know more about the real story of martial law. Ma'am?
All I can say to all people who are listening right now, remember that the martial law in the Philippines has always been a challenge. Specifically for students, we need to understand that education, especially in the context of martial law, is the fact that we learn about this history. Aside from that, it is important to us and help us to understand what happened during the martial law so that we continue to protect our freedom and rights and prevent history from repeating itself.
Thank you for having us here, Miss Kim, a survivor and historian from Philippine martial law, and of course, thank you also for answering those questions, and it's really important to hear by our fellow countrymen.